All right, Mr. White. Breaking Bad, El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie is out. That was a bad impression of Jesse Pinkman, but let's talk about it. Hello, all you amazing listeners out there. Welcome to another episode of Nerd News. I, of course, am your host with the most, Chris Chevis. I'm here to bring you weekly updates on all things nerd. That way you know what to watch. And I have been away for a little bit. I was sick. So, I got the little cold that's going around and the snots and the coughing and the sleeping. And I don't know why I'm like Bill Cosby. And the judge will put it on the door. But alas, I have bounced back and ready to review this fantastic movie that I'm sure everyone has seen by now. So Breaking Bad, first of all, has a long, permanent little stamp on the heart because I was born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Breaking Bad is just really damn good television. It's just a fantastic premise. The acting is top-notch. And I have a couple of friends that are in it, and I auditioned for it like 3 times, but I didn't get the role, obviously. So when I heard they were going to do a Breaking Bad movie, I lost my mind. I was like, all right, Netflix, let's do this. And that's a crazy thing. This was filmed specifically just for Netflix. But the cool thing about it is they had a 2-day actual theater screening in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So you got to see it on the big screen if you lived out in Burque. So what is this movie about? Well, before I talk about what the premise is, a little spoiler warning. If you haven't seen this, I'm going to talk about stuff. And if you haven't seen Breaking Bad, then, I'm definitely going to spoil stuff because you have to see it. You've had to have seen it by now. It's a dang good show. So ever since the ending of Breaking Bad, Walter White is dead, right? We see Jesse escaping off in his El Camino in the distance, and it just cuts right back to Walter White. There's a high pan of him just dying, and then it fades to black, end of series. And you're left wondering, what in the world happened to Jesse Pinkman? So enters the movie El Camino. So El Camino follows directly right after the very last episode of Breaking Bad, where Jesse Pinkman is on the run from law enforcement because of the people he was mixed in with. And in the midst of all this, it's just a massive manhunt for Jesse Pinkman. Poor man, he has had a horrible life. I mean, do you remember half of the stuff from the show? But this would be a really long episode if I was like, remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this. Now, the thing about this movie is I was afraid that it was going to take away the magic and the creativity of Breaking Bad, but it doesn't. It's its own entity, it's its own thing, but it doesn't overshadow Breaking Bad. It definitely highlights the show, and it adds just one last really long episode to the show. Now, of course, Jesse Pinkman is a fan favorite, and the funny thing is his character was originally thought of to be killed off in one of the episodes, but he gained momentum and popularity, and he is now here where he belongs today. So, we know that Jesse was kidnapped, and we saw a couple of moments of him being kidnapped in the show and what he went through. But in this movie, we get to see a little bit more of what went on that we didn't know of. So when when the movie begins, you see Jesse taking off his El Camino, almost the exact same thing from the ending of Breaking Bad. He's just beard, bigger than my beard. His hair is crazy, he's covered in all these scars, and he's just like Joker laughing as he's driving. And then he goes to the only place that he knows, his 2 best buddies. And if you remember who his 2 best buddies are, that's right, Skinny Pete and Badger. They're back! Now, before I go any further, there are definitely a lot of cameos in this movie that are really big characters from the show. But the neat thing about it is, they're in the movie strategically. That way they don't overshadow what's going on. They don't overshadow Jesse. They're perfectly placed like little chess pieces. I could not think of that word. So when Jesse finally reaches Badger and Skinny Pete's apartment or house, it's been like a few years since they've seen him because he just disappeared, right? He knocks on the door really somberly, like, and they open the door. I would do the same thing. They're like, "Yo, bro, I think you got the wrong house." It's not till when Jesse looks up that they're like, oh my God, it's Pinkman? And from that point on, he is just riddled with PTSD from him being kidnapped. Now, the show does a really good job of doing flashbacks. Now, normally flashbacks will take you out of the movie. This one enhances it because it's Breaking Bad. You get to see these little moments that we only saw in our mind because we never got to see it. Now, the majority of the flashbacks happen with Pinkman and Todd. I don't know if you remember Todd, but he was one of the partners at one point with Walter White and Jesse when they hijacked that train. His family were the ones that kidnapped Jesse. And so he takes Jesse out of the cage. That's right. He's in a cage. It's like Harry Potter. He takes him out of his cage and goes, "Hey, Jesse, I got a few things I need you to help me with now. I need you to be a good boy. Otherwise, I'm going to tell my uncle. And if you're not a good boy, you don't want that." Poor Jesse is shivering like a dog, like, "Okay, sure, whatever you want. So Jesse and Todd, you see a lot of flashbacks with them, primarily the inside of more of Todd and how just crazy Todd is. Like, he's a crazy person. You get other little flashbacks, like the movie actually opens up with Pinkman and Mike. This is way earlier on in Breaking Bad. They filmed the scene now, but it's supposed to take place back then during Breaking Bad. And he just asks Mike, when this is all done, where would you retire? And he goes, "There's only one place, kid. Alaska." I'm glad he didn't say, "There's only one place, kid. Still here in the land of enchantment." I would have been like, "No, this movie's not for me," and I would turn it off. But one of the most heartfelt moments in the flashbacks is Jesse. You see a scene between Jesse and Jane. If you remember Jane, it's his only true love. It was the only time in the show where he was so happy. You remember? I mean, yeah, they were doing dope, but whatever. They were so happy and in love. And we all know what happened to Jane. She died. And it's just Jesse was just distraught. And of course, the biggest cameo of all, which we all knew was coming, Walter White. Yet again, this was during the Breaking Bad part, and they were just talking. It wasn't like the most important of dialogues, but it was just one of those things where it's like, Jesse, I know you could do better. You could do, you're a really smart kid if you just apply more. It's almost like my teachers talking to me when I was in high school. Pretty much the same conversation. Now, the interesting thing about this I keep saying show. Now, the interesting thing about this show, I keep saying show. Now, the great thing about this show is Jesse Pinkman is a shell of himself. This whole movie, he's just a completely different character. He's gone through some stuff, like counseling stuff. And you could tell all this negative experience has shaped him, and he's actually turned into a man, if you think about it. So he is trying to do things to just get out of this life and to just go on and live somewhere else and just, start a brand new life away from all this crime, all this drugs and murder. Yeah, he's a murderer. But like I said before, this movie does not take away anything from Breaking Bad. It's a song for Jesse Pinkman. But El Camino, what did you think? This show was fantastic, and this movie is just a great little cherry on top to close out something that we have all invested in when the show was on the air. Now, before we close this episode, I want to give a big RIP to Robert Forster. He is a well-known actor that was in Breaking Bad, in this movie, and a slew, like over 100 films. He passed away at the age of 78. He was a very talented actor, and he will be missed. But thanks, guys, for listening. If this is your first time here, please hit the like, the subscribe. You can always find me on Instagram and on Twitter. I would greatly appreciate it. Hit those likes, the subscribes on everything so that we can be connected and I can connect you to fun stuff like this. And thanks, guys, for listening. And remember, if you live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, it's not too late to move to Alaska.